Bob Woodward sat down with Donald Trump a while back, and he's now released all a gazillion hours of these interviews he did with Donald Trump. And some very fascinating bits of information came out of it. We've gone over some already, but in this segment, I want to look at one moment that CNN will break down for us, where Trump pretty much admits to caring more about his re-election race than the lives of people and his response to COVID, saying that he has a plan to deal with it, but he wants to wait to actually release it until we're a little bit closer to his re-election so it can help him more. Yikes. Take a look.
More than 70,000 Americans had already died from the virus. Now, 2 months after that, in July, Trump gave Woodward a ring, and he said he finally had a plan to deal with the pandemic. But Trump wanted to wait to release it until a time when it would better help him win re-election.
Bob, you'll see the plan over the next 4 weeks. You will see the plan, Bob. I've got 106 days. That's a long time. You know, if I put out a plan now, people won't even remember it in 100. I won the last election.
No, but it's not just put out the plan, it's executed.
No, I am executing. You'll see it starting.
But it was May.
So, wow. I mean, we knew that was the mindset of Trump, but what could be more vile than saying explicitly, I have a plan. Presumably, I know there's a lot of damage being done and lives being lost because I feel like I have to make this plan to respond to it. But I'm going to hold off on starting the process of both announcing and then, as Bob Woodward brought up, executing this plan purely so that it happens a little bit closer, so I get the publicity boost a little bit closer to the election. Now, if he was saying, I want to release this tomorrow or in the next 3 days because I think some aspect of it will help me, that's one thing. But waiting maybe 4 weeks for the plan to get sent out and the execution process to start, whatever this plan was, who knows if he even had one, is deeply, deeply disgusting. And definitely, if there was an effective plan created by his administration and it was stalled that long, led to the death of people for real. And again, this is something we are aware of just based on what we saw from the outside. We didn't need the private conversations because we saw how he was talking about these issues publicly. Instead of just giving the complete microphone to the medical experts, he was going and spitballing about injecting bleach into your body, and was very weird about masks. Instead of making it very clear, this is how we can do it, I want all my followers to be on board with this, he allowed his movement to turn into one that was very anti-science, as it already was, but lean into that. Whereas if he had led as kind of their cult leader a move towards some responsible action, we would have saved some lives. And we went over on a previous show the fact that you see the disproportionate nature of the death rate among Republicans and Democrats, specifically after the vaccine came out. Now, to Trump's credit, he has continued to be more pro-vax than most of his followers because he was part of the process of getting it produced, at least providing the funding and stuff. And so he feels like he wants to take credit for that, which is fair enough. His followers hate that, though. And despite that, he had already sent out to them in the way he talked about masks and the way he handled all these different things that the medical experts don't actually know what they're talking about. And you can listen to your crazy right-wing news sources and they can give you the correct information. So by the time we got to when the vaccine was released, you see this on the mapping out of the death rates. Republican versus Democrat death rate just go boom, launch way apart, where Democrats stop dying at such a high rate, but Republicans don't. They are dying at very high rates. And so it matters. All of this mattered, and it had to be handled correctly, and it wasn't. And so it shows you the result of having bad leaders in power. And I think one of the things people like to do with Trump is say, yeah, okay, he's a goofball, maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about, but when he was president, the economy was good. And we've talked previously about how some of the causes they like to point to about why that might be, the tax cuts, the blah, 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 was not true. There's a broader economic discussion we can have about why the economy was good at that period in time. But having competent leaders matters, as we saw during the pandemic, because when it came time for Trump to lead, he didn't. When the machine wasn't just going to keep going while he was kind of doing his thing, and you actually needed a good leader at the top of that machine, it all fell apart because he wasn't a good leader, didn't have the character or the competency to do that. So wild stuff from Bob Woodward's conversations with him, and I'm sure we'll discuss more later.